I think we're good to go. RPGigan, how's it going, man? You enjoying Path of Exile
Pretty
too?
good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Loving PoE2, man. Thanks for inviting me to the stream. I mean, I appreciate all the similarities. I appreciate the differences to PoE1. But these differences make for a very different endgame feel, right? I feel like they boil down really to three primary differences. Number one, item crafting, the lack of reroll currency. Crafting's no longer rolling, it's slamming. Number two, build designing. Skills are weapon locked, and I know people have said try using Earthquake with a bow in PoE1, but anyone that's played both games know it's very specific weapon locked, and I've noticed that very different feel. Quarterstaff skills are quarterstaff locked, and so on. And back in the day, you used to have Cyclone. You could do swords, you could do axes. You had the choice. You could do maces, right? For stun. And really, point difference number three is just farming. In PoE1, boss fights are itemizable, while in PoE2, you have to work through the maps to get through the citadels and the boss encounters. You can't just buy a bunch of minotaurs. You can't just buy a bunch of eradicators. You can't target farm bosses only. You have to kind of work through the mobs. And I think really those are the three main different feels that I've noticed so far, at least.
Well, man, you're known for your super short videos, 30 seconds to a minute. I feel like we can just cut it at the pod there. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it, dude.
30 seconds?
Yeah, just 30
I'm
seconds.
a 30-second guy.
No, you're the 30-second man. I think that's where we're going to go. So I appreciate it, RPG. Peace.
Right. You're doing me dirty, man.
Now, W or L? W or L,
I got so much to chat about.
W or L? Was it a good chat?
Wait, F.
Was it good? Was it good?
F for your death and hardcore, man.
No, we're kidding. We're kidding, man. So you are known as the 30-second man on your channel, right? But obviously you have a lot to say about the game. And your rundown there, I think those three topics are obviously things that are near and dear to your heart. Because in PoE1, I mean, your channel was built on 30-second to like 3-minute guides on some of the most complex crafting stuff in the game. Some people would spend hours on this topic. And in PoE2, that doesn't quite exist yet. Like you said a few moments ago, it's just slamming. Right. Like, what do you feel about that? And do you think that Grinding Gear Games is going to maintain this more slot-based system in the medium to long term? Or do you think we're going to see more of those crazy systems that we see in Path of Exile 1 eventually in the game?
So we're going to see much more crazy crafting. I think we're going to see Veiled mods. I think we're going to see Essence mods blow up. I do think I like the change because I like that it's different, right? Because we're still going to have PoE1. We're still going to be able to go back. We're still going to be able to run our Minotaurs. We're still going to be able to craft for profit. It's not going away. They may even eventually pop into a 4.0. I'm hoping some kind of major change to campaign will come, but probably not yet. It's so close to PoE2 release. When it comes to crafting, yes, that's a big part of my channel. When I started the channel, I wanted to be different. I wanted to have basically two things that I did. I started off with the concept of everything would be about 2/3 guides, good information, and I wanted about 1/3 to be just, I just say shit post, right? I just wanted 1/3 to be like off the wall, things that you see and you think, is that guy for real? And you click the video because, starting up your channel, you probably recognize the importance of the thumbnail design. I was starting so cold. I had like maybe 250 watchers from my old channel carried over. I had this old eclectic channel, but I had a lot of PoE content in there. And I wasn't all that great at the game at the time, but around Delirium League is when I really started getting good at the game because basically we had the COVID shutdown back in 3.10 and I was locked at home. And that's when I really learned crafting. That's when I started getting onto the sites and recognizing, okay, Shaper mods, slamming the Hunter Orb, what's the best stage for that? Harvest crafting, bench crafting. But to get back to it, I like that it's different. I do think right now the item base is so much more important because before I made a hardcore basically loot filter and it was very stringent and it was very strict. And so with the loot filter, I filtered out almost everything except for influence drops, either synthesized items, fractured items, warlord mods. If it was just a plain old drop, even a good base meant very little. And nowadays, you have to collect the bases, right? So now the core base item really matters. That said, I do think they're going to be bringing out veiled mods, fractured. I think they're going to bring in synthesized, and part of it is just metadata. PoEDB.tw has metadata showing that these items are programmed in, carried over from PoE1. I think they're just easing people in when it comes to like bringing in D4 player base, bringing in new
Uh,
players. I've got friends from my childhood I got coming into the game that have never even played PoE1. And so I like that it's different. I think there's a lot of tuning that it needs, but I'm all for it. I think they should not bring back alterations and the way reroll currency works. That's my personal opinion. Have it
hey,
different.
yeah, I agree on that point. And there are a few things I want to touch on based on your response there. After, let's touch on your childhood friends coming back, because I'm actually experiencing that too. It's so
Yes,
interesting to see the
right.
wide reach PoE2 has after many people may have tried PoE1 long ago and bounced, or just thought, oh, that's that really complex game that I don't want to touch, that doesn't get a lot of fanfare from the general crowd. But going back to all these different crafting methods, not being in the game yet, but perhaps being in the files, I know Path of Exile 2 only players are probably hearing synthesized and fractured and all this stuff, and they're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, if you could choose, if you had the role of Jonathan and you're like, all right, I get to choose the first big crafting method to pop into Path of Exile 2 from PoE1, what would it be? And could you define what it is for anybody who's only played PoE2?
Yeah, well, first, just to step back, I think we just need better access to omens because that's built into the PoE2, and we need that to target craft because right now it's slot machining, right? It's slamming the exalts, it's hoping you hit the right mod. There's always been some of that in PoE1.
Oh yeah.
You know, pray to Chris Wilson, close your eyes and slam, and so that's been known for a long time, right? When it comes to a PoE1 crafting, I think honestly bringing in some kind of influence bases. I think influence bases are huge because they have specific pools, right? You got the Shaper, the Elder. These are all bosses from PoE1, and basically their content is where you farm these specific drops, and they allow them to have affixes that are not rollable on general currency. And then they started getting very complicated, and it's a very good point. PoE1 is an incredibly complex game, but that's why we love it, and that's why a lot of people love it. But it got complex because you have these things called Awakener Orbs, and you can make double influenced items. And the double influenced items are some of the most OP and some of the best in the game. But then it got even more complex, and you have the Maven's Orb, which became the Orb of Dominance, and that's when you basically gamble, and you have a item with two separate influenced mods, and you have to remove one and it'll upgrade the other, but you don't know which one it's going to hit.
Yeah.
And so these are all really interesting variety to crafting, and this is how you can make massive profit if you understand the nuances of crafting from PoE1. So I'd say influence bases.
I love that. I love that answer. And with the system for items in Path of Exile 2, and influence would be even more interesting because the influence item when you initially craft it, I mean, that's that you get the mods that you get. There's a lot you can gamble with chaos and a few other currencies, but it's not like in PoE1, you could just reset an item for basically free. Right. And you could use these influence spaces and just try to craft until you hit the mods you wanted. In PoE2, that would cost a lot more. So when you pick up an influenced item off the ground and it has that perfect mod that you
Yeah,
need, oh,
right.
it would be such a feel good moment.
And what else feels really nice is making like as a content creator, recognizing that there's a way to know that you're going to hit a crit mod on a helmet with a warlord mod, and there's a way to basically add on a crit suffix, and it has to hit that because the base has no other pool crit mods. So understanding the pool of mods is part of the frustration, I think, of a lot of people in PoE1 with crafting, and why so many people just kind of want to buy the item already made. But for people that craft for profit, I mean, you can kind of recognize, oh, this actually has an incredibly high odd to hit. It might be an expensive item to make. You might have to use the meta crafting bench.
Oh,
They
yeah.
got rid of the meta crafting bench, which I also am personally a fan of. I'm okay with them getting rid of that, which a lot of people want it back because they're so used to it. I think there is a way to make the rune omen system work with soul cores. A lot more soul cores could really blow that up, and I think be just an interesting alternative to the crafting bench,
Yeah.
is my opinion.
Now, the crafting bench, though, is another interesting aspect of Path of Exile 1 crafting because for simple minded folk like myself, I did craft at a very base level in PoE1. And one of the few crafts that I did was just like basic, like you said, slamming and blocking of modifiers using the crafting bench. So in PoE1 for PoE2 only players, there's this bench. You can add modifiers onto your item, like an extra modifier essentially. Your items are still up to 6 mods, but you could choose like, oh, I want to add life to this item using the crafting bench. It would take up a prefix slot, whatever. And you could use this bench to add like a mana modifier to fill up your prefixes so that it made sure when you used an X, it would slam a suffix. And then you could then remove that prefix if you want. It's very interesting, right? Now,
No, it's a good point because now runes, although you're still like during campaign giving yourself from some res or some attributes, let's say whatever it might be, some defense. It's a good point because you're not blocking any of the prefix or suffixes slots.
Right.
It's part of why I miss fractured mods so much. You know, it makes it it makes it a lot harder because basically, if you're not used to, if you're a PoE2 only player, a fractured mod is locked in, and a lot of us are. I don't know if you've played Last Epoch, but even Last Epoch has fractured mods.
Yep.
And so it's really helpful with crafting because you have this thing where as you reroll or as you change the item, that mod is fixed and it can't go away. So that's the kind of stuff I miss. That's what I want to see. But yeah, crafting bench, it's true. I mean, you could basically block. You could not only block that affix, but you could block that roll. So if you had a category, let's say fire, there were ways to basically block that content, like especially when it comes to the veiled orb. I don't want to make it too complicated right at this moment, but you could do the veiled orb slams and you could block, so you gave yourself better odds of hitting particular sets of mods as you use the veiled orb. You know,
yeah,
PoE1 players know, and
they do,
and so yeah, go ahead, man.
I think that eventually those systems are going to come to PoE2 in some form. I think stuff like the fractured modifiers, that's a simple concept, and it's so just cool to know, okay, my chaos orb is actually going to function as a chaos orb and not as a, this orb always removes the highest physical modifier you have on your staff and adds in something like freaking 1 to 10 lightning damage or something. Like it would be really cool to have that back in the game, even as some sort of chase item. Which, you know, we know
they've made so much of it like very helpful for the people that like to farm for gear. Like they've made it where you really want to play the game more. You have to play the game to find stuff. In the past, you could be a hideout warrior like me, and you could play the game 1/20th of the time. And you could, you know, I would get my build all set up, and I'd experiment in the field, and I'd run out and try content, and I'd get my builds all set up, and I had a lot of fun build crafting. But I didn't play the game much to farm. I just was never a big farmer when it comes to that. And they made it where you have to look for the specific drops because, hey, you know, in PoE2 now you find a drop with, and you see like tier 5, you have to pick it up and you have to check it and you have to see, oh, look at that, like tier 11 life, and now you have something great. So it makes it feel very good when you get a good drop. But the crafting, it needs more crafting, and I agree with you. I think it's going to come. It's bound to come. It's just so early access.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me a little antsy about it was their answer in the DM and Ghazi interview, Jonathan and Mark, when they were like, yeah, we're more on the slot machine side of crafting, you know, and oh, systems will come, but hearing the fact that they really seem to be a fan of just the close your eyes and slam, pray to Chris Wilson approach.
Yeah.
I wonder how quick those will come in or if they will be prioritized.
Well, I know one thing. I interviewed Jonathan myself at PAX West in 2023, and one thing he said was he wanted they wanted to set it up so you have the crafting system that benefits specific gear type, which I'm not seeing yet. So will that come? I don't know. That might have been very early alpha, but basically like some crafting system for gloves and then some crafting system for body armor. That could be interesting because you still have more targetable crafting possibly, but I know I think what they just don't want it to be as complex. They don't want it to become this.
Yeah.
It's like who's the guy that writes Game of Thrones, and
George
it's
R.
too
Martin.
big. Yeah, it's like too big to finish.
Yeah.
It became so big and complex. I feel like it's like a syndrome where it's just becoming so complex that they're afraid to take away content because people would say, oh my God, what, you're taking away Blight? No, I love running Blight because I love running Blight. So I would be very sad if they took out Blight, but what could they cut out from PoE1? There'd be, you know, controversy. So they're kind of starting from scratch and they're just kind of probing people's, I think, feedback and just deciding what they like best and what they want to add in, new or old. Right now we have a lot of old with Breach and Expedition. We don't have a lot of brand spanking new League content yet, and that'll be interesting to observe, you know. New stuff, entirely new stuff.
Most definitely. The first PoE2 League is just going to go so hard. I'm so excited to see what they cook up, like, because it's been a while since they've had their full efforts focused on for, an extended period of time. Sure, there's the all hands on deck for the last few weeks of prepping a launch, but just imagine they don't have a whole other game cooking in the background and they can say, all right, we're putting 75% of the team on this league launch. Let's work for 8 weeks on it and let's get it out. It would be so good. I'm excited.
It's going to be amazing. This game has so much potential. I mean, I recently made a video basically in the style of Joyner Lucas, and he made a song called I'm Not Racist, and it's basically like people of different political views arguing with each other, and I kind of use that as inspiration for my latest rap video, and I don't know if you've personally seen it, but it's really, I put a lot of work into it, but I basically played devil's advocate of a PoE2 hardcore supporter, like advocate, and the PoE1 purist. And I kind of play devil's advocate of them going back and forth. And so that's something I'm kind of proud of. And it's something where I was addressing a lot of these issues, like people giving their opinions on, should it be more like PoE1? People saying, should it be entirely new? I like the freshness of it. I like that generally in combat, it feels very PoE1 like. I mean, it doesn't feel like the Diablo series. And so it has the PoE feel to it. And so I love both games. I really do. I'm liking both, man.
I'm feeling almost like our Diablo brethren probably felt when Diablo 4 came out, and a lot of people were like just crapping on them because they really liked Diablo 4. In a sense, like I say, oh yeah, I really enjoy PoE2. I'm really liking it. Of course, I still like Path of Exile 1 too. I'm gonna blast that every time a new content update comes out. But I'm really liking Path of Exile 2. And people are like, you can't like Path of Exile 2 because of all these reasons. It's got all this stuff wrong with it. And I'm just like, oh, but I like it. And I bet that's how a lot of people felt when D4 came out. And they were just like, no, I like this different style. I like this thing of the game. And
I mean, I did play D4, and it was just so gray. It was just so everything looked the same, and it was almost hyper realistic. I felt like I was in the Dark Ages in a bad way. I was like trapped in a very mundane where you had to just run through snow to get to the next town, and the crafting system, you had to run to your chest, and like I think D4 was okay. I think if they had called it like Lilith and made it like an off branch and made it not a Diablo main series and made it like, I don't know if I want to say a phone game or just like a console game. I think on a controller on a console, like if you're on like whatever, I'm old school, so Xbox 360, but whatever the new Xbox is, Yep. I think it would have done better. I think the problem was calling it Diablo. It was so different. Like D2, people that are listening that play Diablo 2, I still play Diablo 2 in the form of Project D2. Nice. That mod is great. I mean, it adds maps to the game. It adds Val slams. You can basically corrupt your items. And anybody that came from D2, it's very PoE-like. And PoE really is the spiritual successor to D2.
Yeah. I played Diablo when I was Diablo 2 when I was much younger. I've never really gone into the end game of it before because it was something I played with my dad when I was young. I replayed it when I was like 10. Yeah. So I feel like I need to do a trial of passage where I go through and I experience it as an adult or with like just a more developed mind. Because I think the last time I actually played it was when I was 12 years old on a road trip somewhere. And I love this. Like I love Path of Exile 1. I like PoE2, and everybody always talks about the inspirations of Diablo 2.
Yeah.
I just need to experience it. Especially now you play Project D2. Would you recommend that over D2R, Diablo 2 Resurrected?
I would because it's the original experience. I'd like to. I played a lot of D2R also. D2R only added a few rune words and it added a graphical update. D2R is basically D2 with nicer graphics and new rune words. There's no new endgame. There really is not a lot of endgame in D2. In D2, basically, you just farm Bale. You just go back and forth on the campaign boss, and that's how you level. So you hit that cap. So the campaign's fantastic, but with Project D2, you get more like inventory space, which is a really nice quality of life because you have charms and they take up a lot of your inventory. And charms are like additional items. They're almost like extra rings on your character, but they sit in your inventory. And when it comes to Project D2, the main thing is the end game because you have literally their maps. They're called maps, and you run maps PoE style, which you're used to, and they go up to tier 3. And then they have all these bosses. They have these extra challenging Diablos, and then they have Lucian is the main like final boss, like the uber pinnacle boss.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the trade site is alive. The community is alive too. I'm not
Oh,
sure if D2R has much of a community left, but I know Project D2. I mean, there's usually like 800 to 1,000 people online, which is nothing compared to PoE numbers. But they're like really consolidated. Yeah, they're
right.
online. They're interactive. Yeah,
Right.
so you always have people to trade with. You can find a rune board. You can find a vex, like a rune that's a vex, and you can use that. It's almost like finding a divine, and you can equivalently like buy your gear through the trade site, and it feels very PoE like. So I would personally, if you have the time, pick up Project D2, give it a
All
go.
right.
I think you'd like it.
Maybe I'll have to try it a weekend where I have a bunch of free time. My fam's gone, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna immerse myself into this and go all the way through. Is there a class that you would recommend I play? Because I played a druid and a
Boy.
necro back in the day. What should I play? You think?
Everybody's different, right? So like I like Javazons because of the
I think
range.
that's it. Yeah, I think that's it.
I like Javazons. I like Assassins too, but one thing about Project D2 is they've really changed skills. Like they basically pretended D2 had never gone away and that Blizzard had kept updating it, like how Grinding Gear Games updates PoE. So every couple of months they release a new league and they like skill balance or they add new skills. And so it's still fresh. And so there's changes happening like within the last few months in this game that came out in what, 2004 maybe?
That's so
Ish.
cool. That's
It's
so
very cool.
cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Props to that team. That's crazy. I'm surprised
Right.
Blizzard hasn't taken them out, honestly.
Yeah, the caveat, the way they can get around it is the same way like emulation. You have to own D2, the original D2. So you have to get a legal copy of D2 from Blizzard, and then you
Okay.
download the patch. It's a free patch,
Ah,
and then you
okay.
stack it on your actual original D2, and you patch it.
Ah, okay. Interesting. I have it. I'm good to go. I actually, I got to fight my father because he doesn't necessarily care about this anymore. He has the box set, the big Diablo 2 original box set that you could buy at like GameSpot or what, GameSpy or
Yeah,
whatever. Oh, it's so like with the skull on the front and it's like this
yeah,
big and oh, so I
I
kind
had
of
that.
want it. You had it too?
Yeah,
What
I did.
happened? You don't have it anymore?
I still have my D1. I started. I'm old. I'm an old man, man. I started with Diablo 1. D2 wasn't even around. I started in the late 90s on the computer
Wow.
playing D1. We played
That's
D1.
awesome.
I mean, back in the day, you used to have this glitch where you could dupe items. It was terrible. It messed up the economy so bad. It was a mess, but it was and you were so slow. You couldn't have any movement speed. You couldn't run, but it was so good. It's what started it all. So like if you watch
Right.
D1 footage, I mean, it just started everything. And you know, since then, I just started back in the day. I'm just PoE is just so great. That's why I'm just started the channel. That's why
Yeah.
we love this game, and it's
100%.
so cool, man. It's so much fun.
Now, excellent segue, Gigan. Duping and ruining economies. So obviously, the Path of Exile 2 economy has undergone a few fiascos in the past while. There was the duping of Temporalis, which was going on, which is probably the single most busted item in all of Path of Exile 2. It's the equivalent of Headhunter circa like 3.9, 3.8. I
Yeah.
remember when I first started playing, the footage of Headhunter builds were just ridiculous back then. I feel like that's the Temporalis of PoE1 is Headhunter. So with that going on, with the Divine Orbs, my cat's going insane. With the Divine Orb dupes and the Mirror of Calandras, I saw like 20K were listed at one point. Obviously,
Oh wow,
people are
I didn't know
yearning.
about that.
I don't know if it was a fake screenshot, but I literally saw like, oh my god, there's like 20K mirrors listed
I heard
on
about the
the
Temporalis thing.
yeah.
And I keep seeing on my recommended. I keep seeing people playing with the Alva's trade thing, where you go into
Uh,
Alva and like you buy like those soul cores, and then you buy them for Exalt, and then you sell them for Divine, and you just
yep,
go back and forth. And people made like 800 Divine, just
yep,
literally flipping.
yep.
And that's there's something that's not good. I agree.
Right.
That's not a good thing for the economy.
Now, when do you think the patch is coming? Because they said they're trying to rush it out. In my eyes, man, I feel like we might be a lot closer to this patch than people might think. Like I'm thinking
Yeah.
like mid-February, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. I mean, something like that, they tend to be pretty good about addressing pretty quick. Yeah, the Temporalis thing, I don't have one. I have not procured one. I mean, the way to get these is don't you run like the I
Go
call them the
hit.
Sanctum.
Yep.
The Sanctum, whatever they're called, the new name
Yeah.
for Sanctum. And you go through and you have to do it without ever taking any damage, right? That's the
Yeah.
normal way to
Yep.
get one. So
Yep.
it's really hard to get, but then there's a way to like somehow teleport out, and I won't go into the nuances, but
Yeah.
people were duping these things. It's not good.
Thankfully it's fixed, and the economy reset's coming with some content. Is there anything
Mhm.
in particular you're really excited about that's coming in Path of Exile 2, like a class or axe or maybe
I want
unique
to see more
item?
skills because I've been running a monk. I have not had as much free time as I'd like. That's why I don't have any
Yeah.
build guides on my channel for this league because it's just been crazy in life. And so like I've been running through with a monk, and now I'm in red maps, and I'm running end game content. And I'd love to explore like the different item types, right? Because there are now bow monks and there's quarterstaff monks, but there's no swords, there's no axes, there's no daggers. I want to see these come out. I want to see the new weapons, and I want to see the new corresponding skills. I think a lot of us
Yeah.
are excited to play around with that, especially if you make your own builds. I always create my own builds. I might get a little bit, I might go to PoE.ninja and be inspired by a certain build,
Yeah.
but I never mimic a build. I always do it on my own, and I play around with it a lot, and I spend a fortune on Orbital Regrets in PoE1, and I bankrupt myself on Regret Orbs, because you have to really try it in the field. When you have a path of building, that's really helpful, obviously. That's tremendously helpful, but it doesn't do a great job of telling you like how effective your shock is. It'll kind of sheet that, but to know like how powerful shock really is in the game, sometimes you'll have a lower DPS build just feel stronger when you're running mobs just because of like ailments. And so
Mhm.
it does a pretty good job showing that, but really you have to test it yourself. Whenever I test a build, I do it on my own. I don't just theory craft. You got to test it on your own. So I really look forward to these new daggers and stuff like that. It's on the passive tree, so I'm looking forward to that.
I know. Oh, daggers, primal skills, swords, and we didn't even get a preview of this stuff pretty much. I think there's
Yeah.
2 seconds in one trailer of all these different skills, so we know almost nothing. And I commend you, man. The way you make builds in PoE1, PoE2, that's exactly what I do. I like try to make my own. I go to PoE Ninja for ideas, but it's never like
hmm
a cutting. It's just a cobbling together of a whole bunch of different concepts. And it does
hmm
feel so good. And in PoE2, I did not even do that because PoE Ninja wasn't around. There's no real
Yeah.
true build guides out. Man, I was able to get to red maps and clear T15s with my own freaking build. I've
hmm
never been able to do that in PoE1. How's your monk experience been, and what are you playing?
I'm just doing whatever that's. I can't even think right now because I've been working all day. My brain is fried. There's a
Oh, you're
skill
good,
where you
man.
basically do this lightning flip.
Tempest Flurry
Yes,
or
Tempest for me, and
Tempest?
that's
Yep.
my right click, and then my left
Oh,
click is the one for range, the
oh,
storm
nice. Okay,
lightning thing.
got it.
It's
Stormwave
it's
or
a melee
something?
skill. It's a
That
melee skill with range. I do that on my left click, and then I
Falling
do
Thunder? Maybe that's what it is.
storm something.
Storm. Okay, something. Stormwave, I
Storm something.
think. Stormwave. Yeah.
But basically on my middle click, I have it set up where I basically cast an area of effect on the ground,
Okay.
and that gives me both curse and mark. So anybody standing in that gives curse and mark. So I got my middle click cursing and marking at the same time, and I got that through Reaper of something. And you can
Okay.
use that to reserve spirit, and then basically use a support gem to make it actually on the ground. So you don't have to worry about clicking on the enemies. It just casts this pool on the ground. Everybody walking into it gets cursed and marked at the same time, because in PoE2, curses and marks don't count toward curse limit.
Yep.
So you can have a curse and a mark at the same time without having to worry about Whispers of Doom, which is very nice.
Right.
I think that's a good change. And so I got that on the middle click. I got my ranged left click. I'm going crit. I'm going shock. No DOT. I've been stacking crit nodes. I've been working on the perfect weapon. I've been getting mostly fizz because I like
Yeah.
converting my fizz to elemental. I don't want just flat lightning as much as I can, because with this setup, it's really leech dependent. And because leech is only physical damage, there's really no uniques out there yet to use to leech elemental
Yeah.
damage of any kind, which I think will come eventually in some form of unique. But basically, I'm leeching mana and life off my like 20% fizz, and then 80% is lightning, and then it's got conductivity, and it's got the mark that helps your shock chance, and
Yep.
then what else do I have going on that setup? Again, I've been playing around with it back and forth, different
Yeah.
skills. But that's where I'm
That's
sitting. I mean, I'm gonna create content pretty soon on it. But yeah, you can run
awesome.
through maps really good now. I got my last ascendancy, so
Oh,
I'm just
awesome.
behind a little bit.
How'd you get it? Sekima or Chaos?
Sekima,
Sekima?
yeah.
Okay.
Because with melee, I did do the chaos for my second ascendancy when it was easy, but you just get so surrounded by mobs. I could probably do that now. I actually want to play around with the trial of chaos a bit more, especially because it's really lucrative to farm that. I mean, you can get all the
Oh
soul
yeah.
core of
Yeah.
Azapeka or whatever it's called, Azapaka, something like that.
That's close
That's the
enough.
rarity one. That's the good
Yeah.
one, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you using, when you're playing the monk, are you using WASD or are you mouse and keyboard?
I am mouse and keyboard. I'm old school. I'm just
Oh
doing it for
my.
one style.
Did you try WASD?
No, I have not. I'm so engraved with the other. I know that it's different now with the flask. I even made a video and I said, I miss the 5 flasks. I'm
I
in the boat
saw
where
that.
I want the 5 flasks. I do. I've now gotten where I got a belt with all 3 charms. So it works. Originally, as everyone knows, you just couldn't get a belt with 3 charms. They just weren't dropping. They were just too rare. It wasn't happening.
I've seen one with 2 charms, bro. One.
Yeah, even
And
now it's rare, but I bought it because I'm playing trades, so I bought my own,
yeah.
and so I didn't craft it, so I bought a belt,
There you go.
and yeah, I mean it's a great belt. I'll have to showcase my build soon, but
I
now that
gotta
I have
see
all of
this.
the charms, I have freeze immunity, stun immunity, and
Very cool.
um, is it
Well,
ignite?
net immunity? Okay.
I believe ignite. I went with.
You're not stacking triple rarity. Oh, what are you even doing, man? Come on.
I'm not. I'm not a big farmer. I'm really not, man. So
I
I'm
know,
not a
me
big
neither.
farmer. So I do have a little bit of rarity on like my amulet, but I'm not
Okay.
going all in on the shield. For one thing, I don't have a shield, right? Because as a monk of the quarterstaff, you need that shield, whatever it's called, that gives you effects of soul cores, and you want to have the
Uh-huh.
3 corrupted to 3. I've been playing around with that, making profit, slamming them. You know, you val them, you hope you hit that 3rd socket, you get massive profit. It's one of the gambles in the game. There aren't a
Yeah.
huge amount of gambles like there were in PoE1. I've got a friend, Viper. I talk about him sometimes because he is a huge gambler in the game, and he flips div cards, and he does like these 200 divine gambles. Like he'll go in and like double corrupt, you know, like a perfect bow or something, and he'll
Oh,
go in and try to double corrupt this thing, which is like all tier 1 bow in PoE1. And he'll just lose hundreds of divines. He'll take enlightened. What is the one? There's this gem that's enlightened in not enlightened in power, the blue one, the one that's so freaking expensive.
yes. Oh gosh, I don't even know. Enlightened. Wait, isn't it just
Or
enlightened? It's enlightened, but
it's just enlightened. It's
it's
where my brain
awakened
went.
enlightened. Yeah.
Awakened enlightened. Thank you. He takes awakened enlightened like level 5, and he'll try to like double corrupt that in the
Yeah.
locus of corruption. And so
Oh
like
my
it is so
god,
dangerous. High risk gambles. They
dude.
just don't have as many gambles yet. But we know one thing. We know div cards are coming. That's guaranteed.
We do, and we know they like the slot machine, so we know more gambles are coming as well. Like
Right.
that, I'm sure that they're gonna put a whole bunch of gambling behind like the pinnacle boss drops. I haven't dove into any of the unique items that are being dropped, but I know like the Arbiter of Ash drops a chest that can have various sockets in it and powers
Mhm.
from said sockets and everything. And there's
Mhm.
another that's like +3 to 1 skill in the game, and skill levels are insane in PoE2, so you can really
Yes.
like, can you
Oh yeah, with my
re-roll?
weapon on my monk, I made sure it was a +7 melee skills on that weapon
Oh,
because that was
oh,
sick. That combined with 24% increased attack speed, over 100% increased fizz, over
ooh,
60 flat fizz, and then plus the flat lightning. And then I think I added dex is what I got. I couldn't quite get the crit. The crit would have been
so
perfect.
good.
But you can't go back and change. I can annul it, but no one would. You just Orbs of Annul. I theorized annuls would have high value
Saw
originally.
that.
I thought they would have high. I thought, okay, maybe they're gonna even be the new divine because I knew exalts were gonna replace chaos as the general flat currency just because of the slamming system. Um, as it turns out, annuls aren't worth all that much, mostly because the only point in using an annul right now would be to combine it with an omen. You have to have an
Yep.
omen to target the prefix or suffix. So that's what I want to. I mean, besides the new skills, that's number one. Number two, I really just want access to omens. They made them 60%
Yeah.
more common. They said, I'm not noticing an economy difference. They've actually gone
No.
up in price.
Yeah, I'm not. I've seen one omen, and it wasn't for crafting. It's just really unfortunate, and I've played many hours at endgame at this point. It just
Yeah.
sucks that it's not more accessible. Like, I can only
Well,
imagine.
as you know, we were
Yeah.
going to chat originally, and it had to be rescheduled, which was fine.
Yeah.
It gave me the opportunity to talk to Bazooka Tank and Tenki. I basically went through and I said, "Who is he not interviewing?" And I looked through your massive list, and you're almost interviewing everybody in the community, so it was not easy. But I found 3 names,
Nice.
and 2 got back to me, and it was
Nice.
Tenki and Bazooka Tank. And Bazooka Tank, of course, is part of the Empyrean channel, and so those interviews are on my channel, but. Yeah, Bazooka was saying basically these things are like Hinacore's locks. Omens are like Hinacore's locks. They have about the same drop rate. That's just
Crazy.
not accessible. I mean, a solo self-found player can never even think about trying it, right? And they're
Yeah.
like 8 divine now in
It's
trade.
crazy, man. That's
Some
like
of the
my
good ones,
entire wealth. I don't have a
really.
lot of really. Bro,
Yeah.
I'm not that big of a trader. I did have a luck streak, 4 divines in 1 hour 2 days
Oh,
ago.
hey, what do you know? I've
Yeah,
only gotten like 3 divines since I started playing because of my mid. I only have like 200 hours,
yeah.
so
Hey,
that's
we're about the same. I just had a luck streak. It's like
I don't know.
suddenly I just had drop, and I
Now
thought,
maybe
okay,
it's your
okay.
if you're going rarity, it could be your rarity. I mean,
I
that
have
does affect currency.
55% rarity, and I've never gone higher. Maybe
Mm.
it's the sweet spot, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. There's some monsters that just seem to drop currency better. I mean, back ever since Arch Nemesis, that was original, like in my opinion, original beta testing for PoE2 because Arch Nemesis was when they first explored how mods worked on rare monsters.
Yeah.
And people didn't like it. I actually liked Arch Nemesis League. I'm in the minority. I liked the monster crafting mechanic. I thought it was
Yes.
a lot of fun. So I had a lot of fun with Arch Nemesis League, but a lot of people didn't like it because the rares got so much more challenging. But that's kind of what they did for PoE2. They made it that system, and so I feel like just programmed into certain mods, it might just have better currency drops. Would be
Yeah.
my guess.
Did you notice after the patch? I know you said you haven't played a ton, but certain modifiers rare monster modifiers just seem to be appearing less. I swear, in every single Waystone I played before the big patch 0.1.1, I was getting multiple rares with volatile plants. I was getting multiple rares with the occasionally explodes, and now I went like 15 Waystones, 0 volatile plants. Do you feel like they adjusted the rates of those to almost respond to the player feedback of, oh my gosh, we're seeing this all the time. Please, it's just one of the most annoying things in the game. Take it away. Or do you think it's just dumb luck on my part?
I think it's likely. It's probably a little bit of luck, but I think it's more the former. I think they
Yeah.
adjusted some things because they did make some monsters less, one-shotty. They had even said that, and so I feel like to when you have the easier content, they're actually pretty good at balancing. Easier content has less reward, right? And I think that's why Ubers are so fucking hard in PoE1. Like
Yeah.
Uber Shaper, I was so happy when my custom build beat Uber Shaper, and I was like, oh boy, I'm gonna get Sublime Vision. It's coming. And then I realized you actually only have about a 1 in 100 chance to get a Sublime Vision, even when you defeat Uber Shaper. It's rough. It's very rough. It's painful.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't doubt it.
Drop rates are super freaking rough. I think in Path of Exile 1, but in Path of Exile 2, I do feel like the cadence of the good drops are actually
Yeah.
higher from the Ubers. They want it to be more accessible. Maybe it's
Yeah.
because it takes longer and it's kind of random right now. With a lot of the fights in PoE1, either like you mentioned it right at the top, you can just buy the fights essentially. And
That's one of the big things. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, and in
No doubt,
PoE2.
because yeah, you could just you didn't even have to run maps at a certain point. You could just
Mhm.
run bosses. You could have a build
Yeah.
designed for bosses. Um, was it Subtractum who said, yeah, a good build is really good at one thing. You basically
Mhm.
target it in for delving. You target it in
Mhm.
for bossing. You target it in for mob clear, for running, max delirious maps, 100%
Yeah.
delirious maps.
Yeah.
And I've had builds that are really good at max delirious maps. And I've had, like I have a lightning arrow, which just blows. It's the Nemesis ring, and it just
Yep.
blows up, and you just have lightning arrows coming out of you like a porcupine, and it's so fun. But it's really not as good on single target.
Mm.
And in this game, I don't know. You have to have diversified builds. You have to be able to get through mobs because you have to work your way through. That's so different. I personally like the itemization of bosses. I hope in some way it returns, but I don't know how they balance that with the new endgame system. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you like the new endgame system compared to the limited atlas of PoE1? I know you're a fan as I am too of very different systems at endgame. Is there one that
Mhm.
you prefer, that like the limited atlas versus the unlimited spanning
So I
atlas?
was just talking with Viper because he likes the unlimited, like
Yeah.
where it goes forever. He likes the new system. And I almost would like personally almost a last epoch style labyrinth system where you have the echoes within the labyrinth, where you have maybe biome. Now maybe not necessarily, but let's say in concept, right, you'll have like an atlas of a certain biome which goes out and you explore it and you go around and you hit up the nodes and you find the maps that have bosses, you find the breach maps, you find the maps you can farm. and you go out there and then you put in the tablets and you can kind of juice them up that way. And then you can also anoint waystones. A lot of people may not know that. You can use anointments on your amulet or your waystones. That's another way to juice them. You can anoint
What?
them with
Really?
with the distilled emotions. You can anoint your maps, your waystones.
Oh, does it add
You
layers
didn't
of
know that.
delirium?
Uh-huh. Yeah, the
Oh,
delirium is distilled emotions that are anointing your amulet now. You can use that on your
yeah.
waystones. That's a way to
Uh,
juice them.
I must have
You can do
forgotten
that
that.
combined with a tablet and then have it that way and then have some kind of goal where you have like a boss at the end and then that would be that particular
Got it.
lab, let's say. They call it Labyrinth in Last Epoch, and you have the echoes within the labyrinth. And then you have multiple different atlases. That way, when you get bored with one path, you can jump into another and kind of go on that. And then there's some kind of end game boss there at the end waiting for you, but you can still explore on the way all the mapping. I would like that. I would like the itemization of that. I think that'd be maybe a best of all worlds scenario. Just this is just my opinion, right? Where you have a little bit of itemization by, let's say, biome and by which boss you're heading toward, but you can still kind of branch out and explore. And so that's
Okay.
just my opinion. I would
Yeah.
like to see that. It's not going to happen. More than likely, this massive single system is going to happen. But hey, it's an idea to throw out there in case anyone's listening.
Dude, it's the time to throw out ideas. It's time for feedback. I've heard that take, not that exact take, but lots of people saying Infinite Atlas, boo. I don't actually like it. And given that Grinding Gear Games did admittedly throw this together in the past 7-8 months, I think there's a pretty high chance by 1.0 or whatever it sees significant changes. And I think you discredit yourself. I feel like that is a smart idea, breaking it out into labyrinths or timelines or just more bite-sized sections than, all right, you just keep going forever and ever and ever and ever. Because unless they make some significant alterations to that, I mean, imagine what that's going to look like in Standard League for someone who plays Standard, man. It's going to be
I
rough.
like the idea of having a goal. I like the idea that you're
Right,
exploring
finishing
on
it.
your own, but then there's something at the end. And here you find the whatever Act One boss. I don't remember the names. I'm bad at names, but the boss of Act One, Citadel, let's say.
Yeah.
And then you either complete it or you don't. You get the key. You move on. You get to the Uber Pinnacle boss. There's going to be a lot more bosses coming, no matter what. But I feel like you just keep going. It's like, okay, well, I just keep going. You know, I'm getting levels. I'm getting my build going. It's a way to get my build going. It's a lot better than not having a good end game. I mean, like I say, D2, you would just have to go back to campaigns. So like a person coming from D2 is gonna love this. It's just so much more stuff to explore, you know, but it's not as like you say, sectional. And so, you know, that's just something I personally think would be cool to see. Going off the last Epoch theme.
Yeah, like checking things off like our list, like, you know, okay, in PoE1, you finish your Atlas, and that's always such a momentous occasion. Like you're 116 out of 116. Oh, I feel good. I have all my Atlas passive points. Now I can
and then getting all your
start.
Mavens done, and you got, you know, you beat the Twisted, you beat the Formed, and then
Bam,
all
bam,
that's
bam.
done, and you're like, okay, I kind of beat this league. That's kind of a way that you can say beating the league.
It is a feel good moment. And you know what I know why they're not doing it, but I really wish they would. My way of playing Path of Exile 1, and it's always been this way since I started playing in Blight. I like the challenges. I do the challenges for the exclusive cosmetics, and it's like that's my league completion. I go for 36 or 40, and once I finish all those, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna peace out for, you know, a month and a half, 2 months. I'm good. I wish they had that in Path of Exile 2. It would be so cool to be like, oh, there's this little cool pet or something that you earned for, you know, completing the content of early access. I know why they're not doing it. You know, it's probably the last thing on their list, but I'd love something like that in game right now.
You're not alone. You know, it's not me. I never bother with the challenges. I'm always in global chat, and I have like these barely any. I'm like 8. Everyone else has like 20 something because it's just not my thing. It's everybody with PoE1 has their thing. Some people heist, some people delve. You got your thing. You can do. And that's why it just appeals to such a broad player base, because you can even make different builds for different things, like Subtractum was getting at. I mean, I just remember him saying that. I was like, that's right, that's true. You know, having it customized for bossing, having it customized for this. A great build is really good at one particular thing. I get what he's saying. And in PoE2, really you have to be a jack of all trades, you know, when your builds.
Yeah. Speaking a little bit more on PoE1 now, right now the community, especially Path of Exile 1 players who played Path of Exile 2 and might be finished with it for now, are really hungering for a little bit of news from Grinding Your Games on 3.26.
Right.
What, just, personal off the cuff opinion. What do you think they're going to do with 3.26?
Oh boy.
I know they said like
I'm famous for being
February.
wrong.
Oh,
I'm famous
well,
for being so
all
wrong.
right. We'll make a
I
lot of
don't
people
know.
happy.
I literally every now and then I'll just be like, I need to make a channel content video, and I'll be like, my predictions for the next league, and I'll come up with whatever, and it's not even close. So, let me think back. PoE1. What could they do? I mean, we're coming out of the league, in town there, which is going to end up being I think 4 or 5, I can't remember.
4
Is
Yep.
King's March.
Yep.
Yeah,
Act 4.
because I've actually played around with it I got to play the game
Yeah.
early, and so that's coming in Act 4, I believe. It's King's March. What's coming next in PoE1? I haven't given it thought. I don't know. I can't even think to speculate, man.
Do you think it's going to be recycled? Do you think it's going to be recycled, or do you think it's going to be new? What do you think?
I hope it's not. I mean, they had like way back in the day before you started, they used to have this league which was like all the old leagues would come together, and you had these league stones. Like
Legacy?
That's where I started, was
Legacy.
whatever that was called, Legacy. Yeah, Legacy.
You started
that's
in Legacy? That's cool.
I started on Legacy, and then I hardly got through it at all because I was brand spanking new. And then my next main league, I believe right after Legacy, was Breach League, because I remember really getting through campaign the first time was Breach League. Okay. And I thought these breaches are cool. They remind me of the things in Diablo 3. They used to have these monolith things, and they kind of reminded me of that a little bit, I remember. But yeah, I hope it's not just a Legacy League. I don't think it will be. They had Necropolis League, which it was such a mundane thing to have to make these giant grave plots. So I was not a fan of that, but I was a fan of the double fractures. That was very cool. You could get double and triple fractured items. And that made some really broken items for sure. I don't think they're going to have double fractures back. I don't think they're going to add a new pinnacle boss. I couldn't imagine like a new influence type, alternative to Shaper and Elder, like a new base type with new affixes. That would be exciting, but I don't see that happening.
I would absolutely hype some people up, because they're like saying, oh my gosh, PoE2, it's basically the forefront of GGG's mind. PoE1's on the back burner. I feel like a lot of people are yearning for that big, or at least not even big, but just juicy Path of Exile 1 league. Like something you can really sink your teeth into and really get the full Path of Exile 1 experience. And it's really debatable whether or not Grinding Your Games is gonna prioritize that, or like this next big content patch for PoE2. They said February or March for the PoE1 league was their aim. We should be getting an announcement of the announcement of the announcement any day now. So
I would love to see some form of Crucible trees on items, because that's programmed in there and it hasn't been touched, right? The Crucible tree on the weapon and the shield. Maybe make Crucible 2.0 where they have it on your helmet now and your gloves and boots. I mean, could you imagine? It might be a little too overpowered, but that would be fun. I loved, because I'm a crafter, I loved Crucible League. That was awesome, man. Crucible was great.
It was a big barred power league, man. I made probably my strongest character of all time. I was able to down all the Ubers. Oh, yes. For the only time. Yeah. Frostblades. Did it. Melee.
Frostblades? Dang. I had a Frostblade Scion years ago that was pretty good, but
really?
Haven't touched it in a long time.
It was fun. It was fun on the Trickster. I think Zesh. Oh gosh, I'm butchering the guy's name. Starts with a Z. He put on an awesome build. I took bits and pieces, and I was able to get through Ubers on it. It was very, very fun. Well,
that's a big deal.
RPGigan. All right, we're almost at an hour, but I'm not done with you yet. You said 2/3 of your content is PoE, guide, focus, crafting, helping people out, and like a third or so is like, I can't believe this is real. Do I click it or do I not click it? Now you have. For people who haven't checked out this guy's channel, and you need to, I'll link it in the description, and we'll send the link out in the live chat. There is some sort of, I don't know. Is it a love affair? Is it like is it a story between the Godzilla Gigan character, yourself, and is it Tora from Path of Exile?
Tora, yes.
Okay.
Tora the Culler.
Oh, Tora the Culler. All right, come on. I need to get
Tora
some.
The Culler.
I know Tora the Culler. She's very cool.
Your ass probably once or twice.
She's kicked my ass multiple times. She's given me a lot of great stuff to do with gems. I always was a fan of her in research. I think it's research, right? Hopefully.
Don't do too much research on her now. She's,
Okay, no. I just
you know what I
your
mean?
videos, just your videos. What? What's
She's my
going on with
girl.
Tora? She's your girl.
So okay, there is an answer to this, right? Now it's actually revealed there's a model viewer on PoEDB.tw, and I made two different videos on my channel, and they were looking at the Path of Exile models up close. I thought this would be a pretty good one of that varied,
cool.
1/3 content varied. So I'll look at all the models and I'll see, okay, what do they look like when you break them down? So I examined all the models, and when we got to Tora, I actually did reveal the reason why she's my waifu. And it does go back to a real life story. And so it's because when you take off her beads, her necklaces, the helmet, the horn, the fur shawl, when you get down to just her face, she looks almost exactly like a stripper that I got a lap dance from at my friend's bachelor party.
That's crazy.
She was the best lap dance of all time. And so there's a real life story behind this. Palomino in Las Vegas. If you hit up Las Vegas, you got to go to the not you try, because you got your kids, you got your wife. But if you're single, you got to hit up the Palomino in Vegas, because it was crazy. And there was a girl that worked there that looked just like Tora, and I have since been with Tora because she looks like her. And if you want to see the full details, check out examining PoE models up close. It was in part 1 on my channel.
All right. I will also link that video in the description for ease of finding for all the viewers. Thank you for the explanation. That's crazy. Like, isn't it weird when you're like playing a game and you seem to recognize like one of the characters and you realize, holy crap, I feel like I know this person, and it matches someone like IRL so closely. That's happened to me a few times. Like, it's crazy. But that's special. That's special. I did not know that.
I mean, like right now, look, see, I got myself in Tora. See,
oh my. See. Okay, so I knew you had it. I knew you had a gold rim. I didn't know that you had that shirt. I didn't even notice, dude, because it was blocked by the mic.
So yes, me and Tora. You can actually buy this shirt on my channel. Not that anyone would want to, but I did get one sale. Somebody wanted it. There's some other shirts I sell for fun. I have fun. Honestly, the shit posting and stuff, it's me having fun with it. I want it to be different, to get attention, to provide something different to the community. And so, like,
it's funny.
Like, you and me have gotten back and forth on, I mean, because of the nature of my content, it's somewhat unfiltered. It's somewhat raw.
Yep.
And so people can make very controversial comments in my comments. And I don't like to remove comments unless they're obviously blatantly racist or blatantly spam. I let people kind of make their opinions. I just believe in uncensored, unfiltered content. And so when I make these things, obviously my channel's designed for an adult audience, 18 plus, and I talk about that all the time. Don't go to my channel if you're under age 18, but on your 18th birthday, you can check it out, because, I've got like, and sometimes my viewers give me ideas. Like, they said, why don't you make the greatest Milkies in Path of Exile? And so I have like analysis, and I did real research here on, not obviously Zeri comes to mind, but I actually needed to look into the thicker boys like Omniphobia. I looked at Oshabi, and I did some important research, and so I had to do it for the community because no one else is willing to. I'm there. Someone had to do it, so it's me.
Absolute props. Where did Omniphobia rank on this list? I need to know.
Oh, he's dummy thick. We know that.
Dummy thick. Okay.
He's very thick. So I mean, it's all stuff people know already. Like, I had to come out with one for PoE2. It's become a tradition. It's like every patch notes, I rap the patch notes. I'm a terrible vocalist. I do not have vocal skills, but I'm actually a really good lyricist. And I know that might not sound humble, but I'm a decent lyricist. And so, like, I'm really proud of this last rap. That's why I keep talking about this last one, the PoE1 versus 2 Ultimate Rap Battle. I'm really proud of how that came out. So, like, I don't sound that great, but I'm not going to use AI to do it. It's got to be me. It's got to deliver the right way. And that became a tradition, actually, because in Calandra release, when Calandra was coming out, I basically had COVID and my voice was a little different. It was a little raspier and deeper. So I said, why don't I make a rap video rapping the patch notes? Because I sounded just better vocally. It just worked better. And so that's what started it. And it actually blew up quite popular. And so since then, it's become a tradition. So that's how that started.
All right, I'm gonna have to watch. I might watch it right after we hop off, and just get a raw reaction for it. I'm excited for it.
But yes, I will have to watch that. What's your reaction to it?
Yeah, that That's so cool, man.
Not safe for
I
work. My content. I've been very careful not to use bad words too much because I know
okay.
different audience. So
I
just
appreciate it. I appreciate
FYI,
it.
yeah, but my audience is or my content's very raw and unfiltered.
Mm,
And it's not like I'm trying, I feel like you and me are the yin and yang of the PoE community, right? I'm the dark side with a little bit of good in me, and you're the light side with just that little bit behind it. But we're the yin and yang, and when we make up the full
there you go.
spectrum of what PoE
Mm,
community needs, and
oh
so
yeah.
somebody had to do it.
100%. That's like a perfect outro, but I still have one thing I need to ask you about.
Yes.
Gigan, are you like a big Godzilla fan? Or
I used to watch so that's just been, yeah, that's right, I never really addressed that, did I? You did
yeah.
ask me, but basically I've just always been Gigan, like that's my name on video games, like since
Oh,
StarCraft
really?
1,
Oh,
because
okay.
so I've just been Gigan, and so I was Gigan 988 for a long time, and
I
that's
did.
like my main account name still,
Okay.
when it comes to like PoE. But RPG Gigan is a portmanteau of RPG and Gigan, and so that's where the channel name came
All
from, of
right.
course. And yeah, just I did like the Godzilla films as a kid, and
Okay.
Godzilla versus Gigan is actually one of the worst ones, but I thought the Gigan design was cool, and I've just always been Gigan since, so that's
Yeah.
just my name. It's like with you. What started with the Triceratops? How did this get
Triceratops.
about?
Triceratops was my channel was going to take a three-pronged approach. Path of
Hmm.
Exile, Guild Wars 2, Dungeons and Dragons, and I just made Path of Exile stuff because I was interested like in the lore, and that picked up. And then I had a kid and I couldn't play D&D, and
Hmm.
Guild Wars 2 was like doesn't have that really rabid fan base that Path of Exile
Right.
has that consumes
Hmm.
content. So the Triceratops just was dumped. I shortened it to Try. It still remains in the profile picture, but the three-pronged approach isn't necessarily there
Well,
anymore.
it's funny because I'm the same way. I started off with PoE, Last Epoch, and D2. That's what it was,
Oh, really?
D2R at the time.
Oh, really?
So it was a three-pronged approach in a way. So it's funny
Yeah,
the
very cool.
coincidence. And I remember when you were just like a little Triceratops with 2,000 subscribers, and I
Yeah,
remember you were so cute with your three little horns, and you were just a
yeah.
little guy. And you've blown up way beyond me. I mean, and I've got like 11,000. You've been picking up. I've been following you for a long time. I respect what you do. I respect what you
Thank
bring
you.
to the community, honestly. And I love watching your content because I learn a lot. Like I say, it's really you, Ghazi, Subtractum, and just a couple others. But oh, and Sergog. So those are the ones I
Of
follow
course.
because Sergog always has the insider information. He gets it right away, somehow.
Literally.
But you seem to as well. I think it's because of the Discords. I don't follow the Discords, so I'm like the last to learn anything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but big props to you, man.
Well, thank you. You're making me blush. I appreciate it. I swear it's you making me blush. It's not the fever. Okay. I
Oh
do.
yes,
I
I'm
do
sorry. Get
appreciate
well
it, man.
soon. Yeah.
Oh no, I think I'm over the slump. Tuesday, I was not. If I would have streamed, I would have been out of it. It would have been a very
Hmm.
bad live stream. The pod would have been poor with Hog or Subtractum. I was actually supposed to talk to Subtractum. Would have been bad. But this was great, man. I was feeling good. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
die in hardcore, so I'm in a proper pissy mood to talk to you.
Mhm.
And then it was just, it was such a chill. Yep,
Pay
yep,
my
yep,
respects.
yep.
Yes.
It. I couldn't, dude. I rolled into a pack of white mobs.
That's what chat said. I didn't see it happen because I was still at work, but yeah, I heard. What
It was
level were
bad.
you? Were you pretty far in, or?
Nah, only level. Well, actually, for me, yeah, limited time, so I put quite a bit of effort into it, like level 24 or something. I was gonna go do Trial of the Sekima, and I was chilling, 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 and I rolled into a bunch of mobs, insta die. Okay, we go
Nothing
again.
but respect for people that play hardcore in PoE2. I couldn't imagine doing that yet. It seems way worse than PoE1. I mean, I love Diablo, Last Epoch, or PoE1 hardcore. But yeah, in this game, I mean, you got the pause function, I guess might help, but besides that, it's like, oh, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've died a lot. I won't lie.
It's
Because I actually started stacking armor, and armor is just not that good. I'm hoping, they said that they updated armor a little bit, but it only affects physical, and so like I had to switch to evasion, which I think you said you did too with your monk,
oh yeah,
and I had to switch over to evasion. I actually went evasion with acrobatics, and it's feeling a lot
yep.
better.
Feels so much better, and then just with a little bit of energy shield on top, I feel almost invincible in
Mm.
T15s and juicing it like corrupting them. I'm basically fine unless I just tank a whole bunch of stuff. It's really
Mm.
fun.
Look
So
into anointing your waystones, though. I mean, a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, like myself. Well, I got to get to that. I definitely got to get to that, man. Well, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for
Yes.
coming on. Do you have
Oh yeah,
anything that
thank
you
you.
wanted to say further about PoE2, your channel, or anything to the live chat or people watching the VOD?
I don't think so. I mean, we hit up all the points we wanted to hit up.
Yeah.
We talked about the big differences with the games. We talked about what we want to see coming. Talked about what I do on my channel and I have fun with. And no, I think we're good.
All right. Well, man, thank you so much. This has been very fun. We'll have to chat again once Path of Exile 2 is further developed. Maybe they get some crafting systems in the games. Get some
Right.
straight juice from the master crafter himself. It would be a good time.
I'm the apprentice. I learned everything I know from Ghazi originally. Like he was the
Ah,
master crafter. That
ah,
he's the guy I learned from back in the day. So yeah, but
yeah.
I've gotten a good wrap around it. So thank you. I mean,
There you go.
appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Well, I'll
Good
chat
deal,
with you
man.
later. I'm probably going to watch that rap right now.
All right, I'll disconnect then. Have a
All
good one,
right.
man.
Have a good
Take
night.
care.
Bye.